In this presentation, we are going to explain about financial analysis, which are ratio analysis, horizontal analysis, vertical analysis, risk analysis, and intrinsic value. While for technical analysis, we are going to cover for trend analysis and indicator signal analysis for both companies.
Based on the financial statement of Pintaras Jaya Berhad, the current ratio from 2018 to 2020 is decreasing, start from 5.61 times to 1.97 times. Then the quick ratio of Pintaras is also decreasing with 5.32 times in 2018 to 1.84 times in 2020. This is mean that Pintaras' abilities to pay short-term liability with its current asset is not in a good terms. Furthermore, the working capital of Pintaras also decreasing from around 200 million to 100 million in 2018 to 2020.
As you can see, the highest inventory turnover was 2020 with 16.93 times. Moreover, in terms of days to sell inventories, the company took 62 days in 2018 less than in 2019, which took only 27 days. Meanwhile, in 2020, selling out all its inventory in 21 days. Next, the following ratio is the average collection period. In 2020, the company took just 149 days, while in 2019, it takes 188 days. In 2018, the firm took longer days, which is 247 days. The average payment period for Pintaras Jaya Berhad 2020 has 113 days compared to 2019 with 160 days and 139 days in 2018. The fixed asset turnover started to increase to 1.57 times and 1.69 times in 2019 and 2020. The total asset turnover of the company was 0.25 times in 2018 and it increased to 0.63 times in 2019. It has risen to 0.74 times in 2020.
Next is leverage ratio. From the table, we can see that debt ratio for Pintaras is increasing from 2018 until 2020. That means the company has a favorable ratio because the ideal ratio is 20% until 50%. Next, this company has high ratio for debt to equity ratio for 2019 and 2020. That means the company has used the majority of the loan to finance operation than equity. This shows a company is more volatile and higher financial risk. Thus, long-term debt to equity shows a terrible sign because it rising year after year. However, it's still favorable in 2020 because long-term debt to equity under 50%. Last is time interest rate for Pintaras. In this term, large ratio is favorable, so the graph shows the company can service debt payments except for 2018, indicating that the company only has enough money to cover the interest.
The table shows Pintaras' profitability ratios from 2018 to 2020. So as we can see, for 2019, their ratios are getting much more better compared to 2018. This is because due to their operations in Singapore's contribution. While in 2020, their GPM didn't fall much compared to 2019. However, for the other ratio, they increased a little.
Based on the financial statement of CRESBLD Holdings, the current ratio of CRESBLD Holding in 2020 is 1.24 times. Then as for quick ratio of CRESBLD Holding in 2020 is 0.69 times. This shows that CRESBLD Holding were unable to pay their short-term liabilities simultaneously because their quick ratio is not greater than 1, although their current ratio is 1.24 times, which is greater than 1. Lastly, for liquidity ratio, the net working capital of CRESBLD Holding is around 100 million, which is there has less ability to pay their expenses and debts.
Next, we will move on to the activity ratios of CRESBLD Holding. Firstly, as we can see, the into of CRESBLD Holding is 0.94 times. From a low ratio of into, it shows clearly that the company had maintained too many inventories in that year. Next, the second activity ratio is day to sell inventories. As we can see, the CRESBLD Holding takes 381 days to sell off all its inventories. This indicates that CRESBLD Holding took more days to clear all of its stock. Furthermore, the average collection period shows that the CRESBLD Holding took 234 days to collect its account receivable. The company takes a long time to regain its customer credit. Additionally, the average payment period of CRESBLD Holding is 459 days. It is not favorable as the company takes longer days just to pay its debt to the creditors. After that, the factor of CRESBLD Holding is 0.41 times. With a low ratio, it is clearly shows that the company is less effective in using its fixed asset to generate sales. Lastly, based on the figure, the total of CRESBLD is only 0.21 times. With a low ratio, it shows that the company is less effective in using its total assets to generate sales.
Next is leverage ratio for CRESBLD holding. From the data above, the company have too high debt ratio. It represents the company borrows too much loan. Next, for debt to equity ratio, for this company show 221.37%, and it make they has used the majority of the loan to finance operation than equity. Furthermore, long-term debt to equity show the company earn 97.05%. It represents the company is took on more debt. This company don't have ability to service debt interest payment because the time interest earned is only negative 4.83.
As we can see from the table, it shows the profitability for CRESBLD Holdings. The gross profit margin for CRESBLD Holdings in 2020 is 5.93%, as the company is having a profit in this year. But somehow the company spend more money on operating expenses, hence their operating margin is negative 22.09%. The net profit margin also showing a negative of 30.27%, which means that the company is having a huge liability. In terms of CRESBLD return on equity, it shows that the company is having 17.54%. That shows that the company are earning some return from their investment. For the return on asset, the company is showing 5.46%. It shows that the company have a good ability to earn income from their investment in assets.
This ratio shows that higher ratio is more favorable in order to know whether the company is able to pay their short-term liabilities. As for Pintaras Jaya Berhad or PTARAS, it shows that the current ratio in 2018 is 5.61 times and quick ratio in 5.32 times, which means PTARAS were able to pay their liabilities without any problem. However, in 2019, their current ratio and quick ratio started dropping to 1.9 times and 1.85 times. Lastly, the net working capital of PTARAS in 2018 were around 200 million. This shows that PTARAS has more current asset than current liability, so they had no major loss in 2018. However, in 2019 and 2020, the net working capital of PTARAS were dropping to 100 million, but they were still having more current assets than their current liabilities, which means their net working capital was just enough liquidity to pay their short-term liabilities.
Our horizontal analysis of activity ratios consists of 6 ratios. Firstly, for inflow of Pintaras Jaya Berhad, it has increased from 5.82 times in 2018 to 16.93 times in 2020. Next, in terms of DSI, the company also showed a good improvement in its efficiency as its DSI has decreased from 2018 to 2020. Also, Pintaras Jaya Berhad's SCP has shown a decrease in 3 years with 247 days in 2018 and dropped to 149 days in 2020. Besides, the company's APP in 2019 has increased to 160 days compared to 2018. However, Pintaras Jaya Berhad shows an improvement in its APP as it dropped to 113 days in 2020. Moreover, the company's FATO has become better since it has increased from 0.84 times in 2018 to 1.69 times in 2020. Same as FATO, Pintaras Jaya Berhad's FATO also shows improvement in these 3 years. It has increased from 0.25 times in 2018 to 0.7 times in 2020.
For horizontal leverage ratio, it shows all the ratio is increasing from 2018 until 2020, and it's not so good. While for the time interest earned has rising from 2018 until 2019 and decreased in 2020. It also shows not good. Pintaras Jaya Berhad leverage ratio is not good well in general. To summarize, as investor, we should sell this stock to minimize future risk.
The last horizontal analysis is profitability ratio. For gross profit margin, the highest is 20.89% in 2019, and for operating profit margin, the highest is 21.59% in 2018, where for net profit margin, the highest is 16.18% in 2018, while Pintaras ROAs and ROE's performance are getting better in every year.
Based on the current ratio on Pintaras Jaya Berhad and CRESBLD Holding, both companies meet the ADR ratio, but the most favorable company is Pintaras because it has the highest ratio, which is 1.94 times, and CRESBLD Holding current ratio only 1.24 times. As for quick ratio, Pintaras were able to achieve the ADR ratio, which is greater than 1, but as for CRESBLD, the company were unable to achieve the ADR ratio, which is only 0.69 times. So CRESBLD Holding could not cover their debt with their liquidity asset compared to Pintaras.
Next, we will move on to the vertical analysis of activity ratios. Based on the inventory turnover between Pintaras Jaya Berhad and CRESBLD Holding, the most favorable company would be Pintaras, as its into ratio is higher. A higher ratio shows that Pintaras Jaya Berhad maintains too few inventories. Besides, the fixed asset turnover of Pintaras Jaya Berhad performed better than CRESBLD Holding, as the ratio for Pintaras is higher. Here we can conclude that Pintaras Jaya Berhad is more efficient in using its fixed asset to generate sales. Next, Pintaras Jaya Berhad is the most favorable for total asset turnover because its ratio was higher than CRESBLD. Therefore, it shows clearly that Pintaras can realize a high level of sales from its total asset investment compared to CRESBLD. Furthermore, in terms of day-to-sell inventories for these two companies, the most favorable company will be Pintaras Jaya Berhad, as it takes shorter days to sell all of its inventories. Moreover, the average collection period between these two companies, Pintaras Jaya Berhad is better as it only takes 149 days to collect its account receivable. Based on the average payment period, Pintaras Jaya Berhad is the most favorable because it takes shorter days to pay its debts to creditors. In conclusion, based on the activity ratios, it is preferable to invest in Pintaras Jaya Berhad as the company performs much better in all of the 6 activity ratios.
For vertical leverage ratio, for that ratio, we can see that Pintaras Jaya Berhad is doing better. The ratio of Pintaras Jaya Berhad is low, indicating that the company does not use much loan to cover its asset. Moreover, both companies have high debt to equity ratio. However, due to low debt to equity ratio, Pintaras Berhad is more efficient than CRESBLD in using debt for equity purpose. Furthermore, Pintaras Jaya Berhad, better in long-term debt to equity, Pintaras is considered good at utilizing long-term debt. Finally, comparing the time interest earned of both firms, we can see that the largest ratio indicates that Pintaras Jaya Berhad has a greater ability to satisfy its debt obligation.
Comparing profitability ratio between Pintaras Jaya Berhad and CRESBLD Holdings, it shows that the favorable ratio is on Pintaras Jaya Berhad. The gross profit margin for Pintaras is 17.71% compared to CRESBLD with only 5.93%. Pintaras operating profit margin is much more favorable at 2.43% compared to CRESBLD, which is having a negative operating profit margin of 22.09%. This is because CRESBLD is having an operating loss due to high cost on administration and other operating expenses. The next ratio is net profit margin, whereby Pintaras perform better than CRESBLD Holdings. The net profit margin of Pintaras is 9.98% compared to CRESBLD that having a negative 30.27%. When we look at the return on equity, Pintaras shows a better ratio at 9.78% compared to the CRESBLD ratio of negative 17.54%. Last but not least, the return on asset for Pintaras is 6.23% and the CRESBLD Holdings is negative 5.46%. It shows that the Pintaras ability to efficiently using company's asset to generate profit. From the table, we can conclude that the average return for Pintaras is better than KLCI, which is 0.0019 for Pintaras and negative 0.0087 for KLCI. As for the variance and standard deviation, we can see that the Pintaras has a higher value compared to KLCI. Based on the coefficient of variation for Pintaras is 1051.55 and for KLCI is having a negative 98.4939%. We can say that the Pintaras is associated with high risk and high return. Referring to the table, the R-square for Pintaras is 8.14% based on HYP measurements. As for the p-value for Pintaras better than 0.1, which indicates the model is significant. In terms of beta, the Pintaras shown the beta 0.0077 and it is lower than 1. This is because it has a smaller systematic risk and it might be volatile than the market. Based on the chart, the market return of Pintaras Jaya Berhad inversely proportional to the KLCI market return. Referring to the calculation, every 1% decrease or decrease in the KLCI market return has a positive impact on the Pintaras Jaya Berhad. The market return as much as 6.7500%.
Based on the table above, we can conclude that the average return for CRESBLD has a better return, which is 0.0203 compared to the KLCI, which is negative 0.0087. As for the variance and standard deviation, it shows that the value of CRESBLD has a higher value compared to the KLCI. Besides, based on the coefficient of variation, the risk of CRESBLD is quite high, which is 95.2987 compared to the KLCI, which is negative 98.4939. Hence, we can conclude that the CRESBLD can be related to the higher risk and return. Based on the figure above, it is clearly shows that the R-square value of CRESBLD can be explained by 6.67%, which means that it's affected by the change in KLCI using daily measurement of HPY. Besides, we got alpha from coefficient of intercept, which is 0.0254, and beta from coefficient of X variable 1 with total 0.5837 for CRESBLD. The beta is less volatile because it less than 1 compared to the market, since it has lower systematic risk. Then we form the regression equation, which is R CRESBLD equal to 0.0254 plus 0.5837 RM. Based on the chart above, it is clearly shows that the simple regression analysis between CRESBLD has a positive relationship between KLCI in market return. Using the equation, every 1% change, whether increase or decrease in KLCI market return, will positively affect the change in CRESBLD market return as much as 6.75%.
Now the intrinsic value of the company and the competitor for 2020. So in the table, we can see their EPS and PE ratio, and from those two, we can get intrinsic value RM 2.5995 for Pintaras and 75 cents for CRESBLD. When we compare their intrinsic value to its market price, we can say that Pintaras is overvalued and CRESBLD is properly valued. From this conclusion, investors are advised to sell Pintaras stocks and hold CRESBLD stocks.
The performance comparison between KLCI and Pintaras Jaya Berhad states that the performance of Pintaras is much better compared to the KLCI from 1st September until the 30 December 2021. Pintaras continued to rise from 8 November until 19 November 2021, until the performance started to fall again after that. As for the short-term trends, the performance of Pintaras has shown a sideways trend line in the middle of December 2021. In conclusion, the performance of Pintaras is better than the performance of KLCI.
So you can see in intermediate trend, Pintaras is having a sideways trend, which means the price talk of Pintaras is now aggressive for the past 90 days. Then the resistance and support price of Pintaras is strong and does not break to increase and decrease further up and below for the past 90 days. In this state, the price declined to break the support and resistance. As for short-term trend, it seems that Pintaras are having a downtrend in December 2020. This means some buyers might be interested to buy as the price gets cheaper, and some seller might not sell because the price is not increasing and they have to wait until the price is in uptrend line.
Analysis of indicators and oscillator signal for Pintaras Jaya Berhad. So first indicator is simple moving average. Simple moving average gives 5 signals in total for their intermediate trend of 2021. So their first signal is buy signal in September 2021, then sell signal in October 2021. While in November, simple moving average gives 2 signals, buy and sell signal. The last signal is buy signal in December 2021.
On the chart above, as for intermediate trend, Pintaras has 3 buy signals and 3 sell signals for the past 90 days. Around September 2021, there is sell signal, which means the price of Pintaras will be bearish because the MACD line crosses below the signal. Then in October 2021, there is buy signal for Pintaras and sell signal as well. However, it shows that Pintaras were having a sideways trend, although MACD line shows the signal line. In November 2021, there is buy signal as the MACD line crosses above the signal line. Lastly, as for short-term trend, 1 buy signal. It shows that around the last of November 2021, the MACD line crosses below the signal line, which means seller has to sell their stocks as the price start to bearish.
Now, we move on to the next indicators, which is Relative Strength Index. Based on the chart, as for intermediate term trend, RSI has shown 2 sell signals and 1 buy signal for Pintaras Jaya Berhad. As the RSI is above 70% and then moves down and crosses below the overbought line, the first sell signal was created on the early September and followed up by the second sell signals on 22nd November. Also, since the RSI is below 30% and then move up and crosses over the oversold line on the middle December of 2021, the only buy signal has formed. As for short-term trend, RSI has shown only 1 signal. In the middle December of 2021, a buy signal was created. On the whole, based on RSI, it is better for investors to hold their stocks, as in the end of December 2021, the RSI started to move towards 70%.
From the chart of ROC Pintaras Jaya Berhad, for intermediate trend, there are 3 buy signals and 3 sell signals. The first sell signals in mid-September when the ROC line crossed below a zero line and it affect the price be bearish. Then on early October, price become bullish cause of the ROCs show the buy signals. Same goes on mid-October until early November where there is sell and buy signal for Pintaras. For short-term trend, there is 1 sell signals show around last November 2021 where the ROC line crossed below the zero line. There is the sell signal to the investor to sell the stock before the price of the stock keep decreasing. However, there is a signal line giving the investor to buy the stock in December 2021 where the ROC line crossed above the zero line.
The last indicator is stochastic oscillator. From the chart for Pintaras Jaya Berhad, it shows that the intermediate trend has 2 sell signals and 3 buy signals. The first and the second signal is a sell signals as percentage K is above percentage D, which means the above 80 is a overbought range. In the month of the November and December, the rest of the signal is a buying signals, whereby in an uptrending market, prices tend to close their height. It indicates that the stock is under a lot of pressure.
The performance comparison between KLCI and CRESBLD states that the performance of KLCI is much better compared to the CRESBLD from the 1st September until the 30 December 2021. The performance of CRESBLD is started to show a downtrend line in October. Besides, as for the short-term trend, the performance of KLCI shows an uptrend line and is better than the performance of CRESBLD, which show a sideways line. In conclusion, the performance of KLCI is better compared to the CRESBLD.
As we can see for intermediate trend, CRESBLD holding were having sideways start from September 2021 to November 2021. Then sellers cannot sell because the price still does not break the resistance price. As for short-term trend, CRESBLD holding is having downtrend in November 2021 and cause for buyers to buy because the price got cheaper and seller cannot sell because the price is decreasing. CRESBLD holding is having a sideways trend as the price seems to be bearish in December 2021. Then the price does not break the resistance line as the price is in sideways trend and the price does not declining further below the support lines.
Now we look at the CRESBLD holdings analysis of indicators and oscillator signal. So for their simple moving average, they give 6 signals in total for intermediate trend of 2021. So the first signal is sell signal in the early September 2021, then buy signal at the end of the month. Later in October and November, it gives 2 sell signals, and then SMA gives buy signal in the early December and sell signal at the end of the month.
On the chart above, it shows that there are 4 buy signal and 4 sell signal by MACD. Start from September 2021, it shows that the MACD line crosses below the signal line, which means MACD gives the signal for seller to sell because the price started to decrease in that time. In October 2021, the MACD line crosses below the signal line as the price is bearish. In November 2021, there are 2 signal, which is 1 buy signal and 1 sell signal. As for short-term trend, there are 1 sell signal and 1 buy signal. There is sell signal as the MACD line crosses below the signal. However, surprisingly, in short of time, there is buy signal as the MACD line crosses above the signal line, but CRESBLD holding is having poor performance, which is bearish in price.
Now, we will move on to the next indicators, which is relative strength index. Based on the chart, as for intermediate term trend, RSI has shown 1 sell signals and 3 buy signals for CRESBLD holding since the RSI is above 70% and then moved down and crosses below the overbought line on early of October. The only sell signal was formed. Also, as the RSI is below 30% and then moved out and crossed over the oversold line, the first buy signal was created on 28 September, followed up by the second buy signal on 9 November and the third buy signal on 9 December. As for short-term trend, RSI has shown only 1 signal. On 9 December 2021, a buy signal was created based on RSI. It is better for the investor to hold their stock, as in the end of December 2021, the RSI shows a stable move as it does not fluctuate towards above 70% or below 30%.
From the chart of ROC CRESBLD holding for intermediate trend, there are 4 buy and sell signals. The first sell signals is in September when the ROC line crossed below a zero line and it gives signal for investor to sell the stock because the price started to bearish. Next, on end of September, it show 1 buy signals affected by ROC cross over the zero line and it show the price going to be uptrend next. In October 2021, the price been bearish again as the ROC line crossed below the zero line. In November, it have two signals indicate the buy and sell signal. For the short-term trend, there are two buy signals and one sell signals. First, buy signals show in mid-December 2021, affected by ROC line cross above the zero line. Next, the sell signals show as the ROC line cross below the zero line. However, there is buy signals in a short period of the time, but CRESBLD holding is having a bad performance, which is decrease in the price.
On the other hand, for the CRESBLD holding have one sell signal and 5 buy signals. The sell signal is happened in September 2021, and for the buy signal happened in the month of September as well, as it shows that the line moved down and crossed below 20% line, known as oversold line. The remainder of the buy signal is happened in October and December.
As for the conclusion, based on the overall result from fundamental analysis and technical analysis, as an investor, it would be best to buy the stock of PTARAS because it shows an excellent result, indicates that the company is performing well in terms of its financial, hence it gives a stability. Based on the technical analysis, the stock of PTARAS shows an uptrend line and most of the indicators created a buy signal as the price is expected to increase in the future. While for the CRESBLD holding Berhad, we would suggest to sell the stock as the most of the ratios shows a poor result, indicates that the company is not performing well in terms of its financial, hence instability may occur. Moreover, based on the technical analysis, the stock of CRESBLD is in a downtrend line and most of the indicators show more sell signal than a buy signal.